Couple minutes. Getting ready. Go live. Okay. Here we go. All right, so good morning. Welcome everybody to another ACIM Miracle Moments on it's today, Wednesday. Here come some more people. Yay! Welcome Adam, Claudia.
Greetings.
Greetings. And Brooke. Hello.
Hey, Alex. Good morning.
Good morning. See, you're up to lots of great things. You guys have another book coming out, right?
Excited. Happy to wrap this up so we can go on to stages. We're going to host our own events next year. But what's really a lot of work too is being business. I don't know if it's me, man. Let's throw that out there. It's so much work. But so yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of books, I would love to read the introduction to my book and get some feedback from this. I guess we'll just start with that while we're waiting for everyone else to jump on. Okay.
You still got dust in your nose?
Probably. Still my lungs for sure.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I keep finding that in the most. It's just
Yeah, we're still cleaning up from Burning Man. So for anybody that is brand new joining us on socials or lives or anywhere else, this is A Course in Miracles. I just have the cover to it because it fell off during the burn. But yeah, it's a 3-part book. It's got theology to start, practical things for us to read. It's very dense. It's hard to, grasp sometimes. So that's why in group sessions, group settings, these are actually really good. And then it's got a workbook, 365 lessons, a lesson a day. And then it's got manual for teachers. So I began the book, and it really helped me by reading manual for teachers first. It's not really like it's manual for teachers, but it's really just questions that students would have as they study the course. Some of those questions. So it comes up, and that's great. But I'd love to start today by sharing the introduction to my book, and I've been putting it together. It's basically the main gist of each chapter is done also. I'm just writing it further out. So I wrote an introduction, and I love to get some feedback on that. All right, so I'll read it, and I'll let people into the room at the same time. Okay, so this book is written for you, the seeker of answers, the one who feels a deep yearning for something more, something real, something true. It is an integration of this life of identification, where we often find ourselves chasing material things, searching for love and strength outside of ourselves. If you're struggling with finances, if love seems elusive, if relationships are challenging, or if you have lost your faith in humanity, this book is written for you. It is my hope that no matter what challenges or struggles you may be experiencing, this book serves as a gentle reminder to return to the highest version of yourself. In A Course in Miracles, we learn that all loss of peace in our lives, no matter how small, is equally disturbing to the mind. Whether it's a fleeting worry about money or deep-seated fear of being unloved, these disturbances are rooted all in the same source, the belief that we are separate from love. The ego tells us that we must seek outside ourselves for fulfillment, but the truth is that everything we need is already within us. The title of this book, Had You Have Faith, You Wouldn't Need a Miracle, speaks to this truth. Miracles, as taught in the Course, are shifts in perception from fear to love. They're not supernatural events, but natural outcomes of choosing to see with the eyes of love rather than fear. If we live with unwavering faith in the love that is our true nature, miracles will become unnecessary because we will already be living in alignment with the truth. Faith, in this context, is not about blind belief or wishful thinking. It is about trusting that the blueprint of our highest good is already within us, waiting to be realized. This book is not here to give you something you don't already have. It is here to help you remember what you've forgotten, to guide you back to the place that to peace and love that are your birthright. Every section of this book is written with the intention to bring you back to yourself, to clarity, peace, and love that have always been within you. This book is not about giving you something new. It's about remembering what you already know deep in your heart. You don't need to understand every part of this book to receive its message. Whether or not you agree with everything does not matter. The transmission of love that flows through these words are not dependent on understanding. It is a gift that is offered to you simply because you are worthy of it. The love flowing through me from our Creator extends to you, so that you may find peace, forgiveness, and healing in your heart. There is no agenda here. The only purpose is for you to remember that you are loved and that you are loved. The highest good in me is speaking to the highest good in you. This book is an invitation to surrender, to let go of what no longer serves you, and to begin your journey home to the truth of who you are. As you engage with this book, some of you may discover your inner teacher, the voice within that has always been guiding you back to love. This inner teacher is your connection to divine wisdom, the part of you that knows the way home. Listening to this voice will bring you to peace that surpasses all understanding, the peace that comes from knowing that you are exactly where you're meant to be. You're not alone on this journey. As you turn these pages, know that my heart is speaking directly to yours with authenticity, compassion, and love. May this book be a source of light in your life, guiding you back to peace that is your birthright. Your journey home begins here.
I love. So good, Alex. You're growing up so fast. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I love it. When does it come out? It makes me want to just like hurry up and go get it.
I know.
Release.
It will come out in October, and hopefully we'll be ready to like give one out at the conference.
Beautiful. Are you doing Audible too?
I haven't gotten that far, but I've hired a publisher that's doing all the marketing and everything and all that behind it. So, and I'm actually writing. So the cool thing is, I don't know if this will work, but my idea is I'm going to write like 2 really, really amazing forwards to this book, like from Marianne Williamson, and send it to her and have her like sign off on it, either one of those forwards or that she can write one for this book. And I would love that would be the goal.
That would be awesome. You got this, babe. Sending you good vibes.
Yeah, thanks. So if anybody
Great job, man.
anybody has connections to Marianne Williamson, I think some people in the Burning Man camp does, that would be awesome.
I do.
Oh, boom. Look at that. I knew I was meant to do this and read this here. Hey, Lisa. Welcome everybody. Okay, so one thing I do want to also start, since we're talking about Marianne Williamson, is I want to read also something from A Year of Miracles. And it's great. Every time I post something of hers, like one of these, I think she sells at least one book. Everyone's always asking me, what book is that from? What book is that from? So, I don't know. A Year of Miracles. It's just such a great book to open up anytime as a great reminder, because Marianne is such a wordsmith. So this goes out to, I've been feeling, even with myself and you know, a lot of people around me, just like deep kind of financial struggles and fears, you know, and I think it's a collective thing that's also happening in our country, as you know, we're going through corrections of real estate and things like that. So, lending being harder and have tightened up. So across the board, businesses have a harder time to get money, and so everything's kind of in contraction right now. And prayers that we get through all of that with peace and ease. So day 136, this is perfect. Mariam wrote, I surrender my financial fears today. In God, there is no lack. There is only abundance. In God, there is no meaningless pursuit. There is only endless creativity. In God, there are no endings, but only start of new beginnings. I dwell in God that I might be delivered from the realm of lack, from the pain of meaninglessness, and from the sorrow of perceived failure. I am lifted above the limits of the world to the endless abundance of the mind of God, and thus I need not fear. Dear God, I place in your hands my financial concerns. As I abundantly give of myself, may abundance be given me. May I gift the universe, and the universe gift me in an endless cycle of love. Amen. Okay, so let's just begin with thoughts. Anybody have anything on your mind or on your heart, anything that's alive in you today? Love to begin with more of an interactive conversation.
Yo.
Yo.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Yeah, just something that's on my heart, since you've opened the space, thank you so much for doing so. And thank you for your book. Amazing. One of the things I was like, I love these books, just a little aside, that are like the first page you open to, and there's just like a one line, like, this book is dedicated to, like, I think that's a nice way to open. Just, I personally love those books. I'm like, oh my God, you just brought me into you.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it's just words.
Nice. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. So hit that talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
So Claudia and I, hi Claudia, I don't know where she's at. I can't see her on my screen. But last night we took a big step. We took a big step of faith in following this heart's calling, and put out this amazing masterclass, inviting into going deeper within the self, right? And I just wanted to share that you spoke into fears of finances and things like that, and in the development hat that I wear quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
that's real for me in this current reality. And I've been navigating waves of like presence, and leveraging all these tools, leveraging faith, going into prayer, sitting and being open, and yet the ego is just like this like wave of like fear is what it feels like, right? But then stepping into this heart's calling and opening up a space, we literally had like 33 people on the call on Tuesday night, and it was just like, what?
Yeah.
And how instantaneously this shift from a constriction to like open expansion of like, no, this isn't about finances. This is about being, creating a space. This is about being a space for myself, ourselves, you know what I mean? And it was like this really conceptually, those, in these conversations we have on these calls on Tuesdays and Sundays, and the reminder, and then in the everyday, the tools that I'm working with in myself, that I got my little tool belt to pull out and bring myself into trust and faith. In contrast to that, there's still that constriction feeling. It's very interesting to be like, I'm witnessing this happen. I know that there's things that I can be doing here, but then in that act of service, and then to see it be received, like what a beautiful thing it is for being in service to self and other. Like there is no separation there, and for it to be received is so healing.
Mm.
So I just wanted to share that, to see whatever it opens up, because it was true for me in this moment. It was just a beautiful, beautiful opportunity that came through us, and we had so much fun with it. And yeah, I missed you there, and oh boy, pause for the cough. So yeah, just that in that giving, there was being received at the same time. It was healing, so putting that out there for this group. Thank you for the invitation to share.
Oops, sorry, I choked too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because that is a real fear that most of us have as we step into something new. You know, we're like ready to share our gifts, and we're like, how is it going to be received? You know, how will it be received? Will people show up? I mean, I know every single week I run real estate calls, I run our mastermind calls, I run a Course in Miracles calls, and always a small thing shows up in my mind, like, what if nobody shows up? What if only 2 people show up? Right? Like, we gauge like this success based on some sort of result, and rather than just trusting. Like, so the lesson's always in trust. You know, the lesson's always in like deepening our faith to step into something that we've been called to do. And so, you know, maybe 33 people for the first one, you're like, wow, that was a great result. But let's say, like, you know, down the road when it's really successful and you expect like, you know, 150 people to show up and 33 shows up, and you're like, oh man, like womp womp. Right? Like if I'm throwing an event, like I'm throwing a conference in October, we're spending a crazy amount of money, and if I'm like, whoa, if 33 people show up, like this is going to be a huge flop. Right? So it's always kind of this like relative, it keeps like scaling up, and there's no end if we need outside validation. You know, if we decide that success is based on something outside of us. So yeah, and just it's a always a showing of faith. And when you come to that place, like 33 people show up, you're like, wow, like that was awesome. You know, we were like, all the fears that and all the worries that we actually carried, and the loss of peace, and perhaps like projecting into other spaces because of our worries, like all of that was really unnecessary. You know, if we just had faith and we just had trust. Okay, well, what if 1 person shows up? What if 33? What if 100 people show up? You know, and just being so grounded in ourselves, in sharing. You know, the Course says that sharing is creativity. So it's you know, I think it's a great conversation, and thank you for starting it and sharing, like, because a lot of people want to step into something new, especially now after like Burning Man, right? Like a lot of people were in a different frequency for a while, and then they come back into their life and they're like, wait, whose life is this that I'm living? Like, can I do something else? Can I be greater? Can I create something more? And then the fear after a while comes in, like, well, what if nobody listens? You know, and that's what the Course says. You can't define success, or you can't find happiness or peace from outside things. You know, I had a really great lesson last night with my wife, and she's here now with love. I was like, I all of a sudden had this fear come through me about the conference, right? I'm like, oh my God, like, am I ready? You know, what if, and even though a lot of people have already bought tickets and are signed up and everything, I'm like, what if I don't deliver what I am promising to deliver? You know, I go back and forth. I vacillate from like, okay, trust. I don't really need to worry about what to say or what to do because God guides me. And like on one aspect, I'm like, yes, that. And the other one, I'm like, well, what if I just like freeze up? What if I don't deliver? What if people just give me this blank stare as I'm speaking, you know? And then after the conference, people are like, it was okay. I'm like, whoa. So that came up, and I was like, and I kind of just shared about my stress a little bit with the conference, and Love was like, well, you know, I don't know if it's the best time to do the conference, you know? And obviously I've enrolled her into my fear, and she responded with her fear when I was kind of looking for like, oh, where's my positive support? You know, I wish I had a support system. And all of a sudden I spiraled down. I'm like, all right, I got to go off and do some work on my own. Got a Course in Miracles, this thing. So I go into my normal prayer of, God, show me a different way of looking at this. You know, show me a different way of looking at this whole situation. Because I'm like, in my mind, I go into blame, like, oh, why can't she just be positive and supportive and this and that when I need to hear it, right? I'm like, then all I'm doing is going out there and infecting people and projecting and hoping that somebody's going to save me. And I actually weakened myself doing that all the time. And then she came into the room and was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry about the way that I showed up and I wasn't supportive. You're amazing. And gave me words of affirmation. And I was like, oh man, that was so much easier. Why is it that I can shift my mindset, so much easier if she just did this? But that's not where the work is done, right? The work is done is when you're able to not be triggered about that stuff. That you can respond with love and you don't see it as an attack on you. Right? To see the perfection and the light in somebody else, regardless of what comes out of their mouth, that's the real practice here. She can say things that if she says, oh, you're amazing, then I feel good. And then she says, oh, you're not amazing. And then I feel bad. That's us like really giving our power over to somebody else, number one. And two, we actually weaken our bond. We weaken our vision and the light that we see in each other. So the practice is to see the light in people, especially your significant others and your family that can trigger you with just one word, right? That's where the work is. So like starting to shift my relationship to those things. Like we're after Burning Man, things have come up for us and we have deep lessons that are happening. And these deep lessons have actually connected me closer to God and helped me write in such a more connected way. Like when I'm writing with such clarity right now. And so our lessons have really deepened my connection. So yeah, just wanted to share that. Thank you, Adam, for starting off that conversation. Claudia has something to add, so go ahead, Claudia.
So good morning, and congratulations, brother Adam, for such a beautiful, and Claudia, for such a beautiful meeting last night. It was very beautiful, and that's just something that I've been waiting. And I'm glad it's here now, and I'm your number one fan, so I'll be there. No question. So, and Alex, all your cells and you're getting up again and your beautiful processes in this life with your wife, for everything. Thank you for that. Always vulnerability right there, right? So I'm sorry for the noise in the back. It's a lot of work here.
I don't hear anything.
So well, oh good. I'm glad. I think this headphones block that noises. So for me, talking about the conferences, I'm having a conference of 2 days here at Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, Palm Beach County area, actually, trying to find, a woman's community or create a woman community with Natalie and another sister, being organizing this. We've been I've been preparing, I believe, for my life, not knowing that it was going to come this fast. I've been taking a mastermind class since January with an amazing woman in Miami. So I travel every month in person to be in that mastermind class, and we have bonus call, one-to-one, whatever it is. And I felt that everything developed to the point that everybody's doing their own. They want to step in as something that is unknown for them, right? And I did the same thing. So with this conference, is being, like you say, putting a lot of money, put a lot of time, and I still have to go and be a mom and be a teacher for a homeschooling kid that I have at home, and being the caregiver of 3 dogs, and being, and this other job who give me the paycheck every week for when things are not that grateful. And again, it's that fear, right? That in the validation from outside. I've been running right now. We only have sold 2 tickets. I've been doing this campaign for a month and a half. I get feedback from everybody who's been doing more marketing than me before, who've been doing more marketing than the team marketing that I have for my mastermind group. And I've been like very, like my my flaps down, and I say no, 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 and like you share about sharing with your beloved one. And one thing that my husband has is like he's very enthusiastic, regardless. So when I give him this put it on him, he's like, "Don't worry, you're gonna show up regardless if it's 100 women or 5 women. You're gonna show up the same." And I sit with that and I say, "It's true because anyways, that's what I do. I have done, and but it's like that fear part of like, am I gonna be able to pull this out? Is it gonna be, I'm gonna have to get more money out of my pocket because that's another thing, right? That I'm gonna have to get more money out of my pocket for those 5 people that are gonna show up."
Mm-hmm.
And I keep going in that, and other things have been coming out, but I see myself of like how many validation from outside of myself I get to keep receiving, and I receive it with a lot of love because I know the one that that's for me. But at the same time, it's like, do I have to really? Do I have like? It's when I was doing, I have another business now that Claudia helped me for 18 months to develop, and it's about a dental mapping, right? And the dental mapping it was the same thing. 10 years ago, I had an idea that how I can take my career, my dentist training, in another holistic space, but not as a practitioner, but as a like educator, right? And I have planned. I created. It's there. I have the website. Um, Obviously, this conference is a big opportunity for me to plant the seeds. So what does this mean? Because there's nothing out there like the work that I've been doing. And it's a fear as well because I knew that a point I said with that and I say, what about if I get all the dentists that I know around here, and there's more than 150 as my enemies? Because what I'm gonna start saying that their program is not their fault. I'm not gonna demonize them, but for them to come back and say, wow, we've been doing all this and not caring about the persona, like the health of the people in their mouth. And then that's another fear. But because I have this tribe, because I have the woman community, and I've been speaking about this for the last 3 years, and people's like, wow, that is mind blowing. I took the courage to create what I'm creating,
Yeah.
and to share and educate not only the patients, but to educate the dentists.
Yeah.
So it's just like you say, it's stepping out of my comfort zone. I've been in the dental field for over 36 years, all my life, because I was born in a dentist parents. And then that's one thing that I've been like, I hesitate, I go down, and then, somebody else comes and cheers me up. But again, like how many times I have to have somebody else to cheer me up for not feeling that I know my soul is so aligned with this, so aligned, because every time when I work on it and I talk about it, it's not only the passion but the peace that brings in my being and my space. So I just wanted to say that, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because there is a lot of fear, and when we step into something huge, like, putting a conference together is not like not easy peasy. At least when you first start. The first time doing anything big like that, right? Lots of stuff will come up, but the question the course always asks us is, what is it for? Right? These things coming up, what is it for? And that's what we got to get clear about. This fear that I have about putting this on, what is it for? Why is the fear coming up? And this is why the course says always ask and hand it over to the Holy Spirit, because the same Spirit that is alive in you is alive in everybody. And we are all participating in the expansion of the kingdom, no matter what's happening. Right? So even if things don't play out the way you want, at Burning Man, one of the lines that stuck with me is everything happening best case scenario. Right? So like whatever is happening for you, one person show up to the conference, 150 people show up to the conference, any one of those things, when they happen, they're not happening by accident. They're happening best case scenario. You know, and in today's section, it kind of we're going to make a distinction of selfish versus self-full, self-fullness, selfishness, self-fullness, and yeah, thank you for sharing that. You know, it is vulnerable to share like the fears that we experience when we're trying to go for something big. Right? A lot of times people look at the people that have succeeded and they think it was so easy. But this is the path. The path is like who do you need to become in order to be that person that is moving an audience, that is moving a group of people, you know, that is having 150 people show up in the conference. Who do you need to be? You know, and that's kind of the question for ourselves, and to recognize that this is where I am and it's as perfect as it can be. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that, because same fears always come up, you know, for me as well. Okay. Anybody else? Anything else that is alive within anybody here? Lisa. And then Fraser.
Hello.
Hello.
Lowering my hand now so I don't forget later. Yeah, I've just been working since, you know, I got back from Peru in early July. And since then I've been working to like build a book of business, you know, build clients for not only for like the vocal doula, you know, work I do and self-love. Although I haven't been pushing that as much as I've been pushing the virtual assistant work I do. I created a landing page for that, and I had a lot of like buzz when I first put out the landing page, and I got potential for a couple clients, but everything's moving so slow. And I feel emotion coming up and trying to calm it, but I don't even think I realized like how alive the fear was until this call, because I feel like I'm in a very much trust, you know, situation. Like I really don't feel like that my path forward is to work for someone outside of me, to work for another company. I'm open to it, but I don't think that's my path. Like that's not where Spirit has been guiding me. But I mean, I'm making like just enough money to cover my food, you know, for the month, and like the couple bills I have. Yeah, that's what's real for me. Just trying to get have the confidence, I guess, to like really believe in myself and know that I can do everything that I want to do and that I'm up to. It's just like, I guess patience has always been hard for me. Always has been hard for me in my life, and I'm being very patient. I mean, I have to be patient, and I have to be frugal, and you know, take care of myself in ways I never have, which is great. Like I'm cooking for myself every single meal, and you know, the Lisa before was not like that. You know, going to work in corporate, eating out every day, living in Peru, eating out every day for the first year I was there. And then when I lost my job in Peru, I shifted and I started cooking. And cooking has been such a hardship in my life. Like my mom died young, and dad was a line cook, so I ate processed food my whole life. Up until like probably 20 years ago when my daughter got sick is when we really started looking at like what are we feeding ourselves and stuff like that. So I immediately see the blessing of why did I need to lose all the money, basically? Why did I need to lose like the monthly money? Because now I really take care of myself in such a healthier way, and I'm really grateful for that. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm complete.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. You know, when we talk about money, money is always kind of like a sensitive subject a lot. And to actually be able to share like publicly like that, it's like words heal. Words have the opportunity and the possibility to heal for us, especially when we can hear ourselves speaking something, right? And perhaps the course always points to like whatever brings you joy, just do more of, and then let God take care of the rest. Like you're still being taken care of by your tribe, by people that love you, and there is abundance around you. And I would say, like the course says, whatever you focus your attention onto, that expands, right? So if we focus on the worries, all of a sudden that thing grows, and we go down the rabbit hole of all these other things we should have or could have been doing. And then there's another path that is a practice of gratitude of what you already have. And as you recognize more of what you already have, the abundance kind of starts to flow more. Like I have all the time in the world. And you start, even though you need to spend your time to make money, you start to spend your time giving your time to somebody else, to some cause, to something that you care about, and see what doors open up there. God is always providing enough for us. There is nothing that we are being put into, a place that we're being put into that we can't overcome, or that it's not just a very simple invitation into something. And for majority of our world, money is the way that God really can stir things up for us. Somebody's just like feeling so secure with their job, you lose your job, boom, all of a sudden the prayers come, right? And we wait till we're in such a tough situation before the prayers come. The Course says that God doesn't need our prayers, we need the prayers. When we do gratitude processes, like Love and I just started this new cool process, and it's been amazing. And it's just like randomly, and every single night we'll do what I love about you is. What I love about you is, and we just keep doing that, and it just brings our mind to a gratitude and loving place. Right? If we don't do that, if we don't at least dedicate time to doing that, we just let our minds wander. And when our minds wander, the ego takes over. And the ego will take over, and the ego wants to create fear. Right? So first it might be like having to shift what is my automatic in my mind. Right? And that automatic may be like, oh, I don't deserve to make this much money, so I'm going to charge this amount so that I can. Everything is about small and just enough just to survive. What about something grander? Right? Like, what is your dream? Like voice activation. Like this is probably some, it is a love and a passion. You find joy in helping other people do that. And when you're doing that, right? So do more of that. And because there are people out there that is looking to activate their voice, and they will pay top dollars for that. But you need to be so in your like flow. But then you're like, let me do some VA work, and then it just kind of becomes like a have to versus what I really want to. And the spirit of doing it is not there. Right? Especially all the people that love you, like we know what you're wanting to do, and then you're stepping into something that you don't really want to do but to make money. And that's not very inspiring, not for you and for the people that you're going to be working with, right? So not to do it, but do it like if you're going to do it with lots of enthusiasm, knowing that you deserve it and that you deserve top bucks. All right, so do everything with like just excellence and excitement. And always be super grateful for what we already have. That's what we forget. When we go into lack, the Course says that the only lack that exists is what you're unwilling to give. And so when we think about lack in that way, we're like, oh, this is what I'm withholding from the world. This is what I'm holding from myself. And love doesn't withhold love. So somehow, aligning all those things for yourselves. And I would say if you're really committed to getting some like a VA job done or something, like reach out to people one-on-one. Right? Reach out to people and be like, hey, first, this is just now strategy and tactics versus like the spirit, right? We talk about the spirit behind something versus tactics and strategy. for me personally, I would just be, if I really needed to get some work done with somebody, or if I needed to raise capital, I wouldn't post it and just hope that somebody comes to me, right? Like in the beginning, you got to work for it. I'm going to call people and be like, hey, is there anything that I can do? First, I'm going to establish my bottom line is I need to make $2,000 a month, all right? Or I need to make $5,000 a month, whatever it is. And then you go, hey, do you need any of this type of work that I can do for you, right? What you're almost doing a discovery call with people. People do discovery calls for coaching. You're doing discovery calls and basically interviewing them and yourself to them at the same time, right? And if we focus on what can I do for you in spirit, right? Like when we're doing an exchange, yes, there will be a monetary exchange and a work exchange, but also what can we possibly do here together? Let's discover the amazing things that you're meant to be in my life for, and I'm meant to be in your life for. So thinking like much deeper than that, and then also reaching out to people. Like when you connect with somebody, they might not even like think, oh, I need a VA job or anything, but your connection to them might get that job, right? And then you guys will get to discover what you're meant to be doing together, and money gets to be exchanged at the same time. So do whatever it takes to get to the number you need to be at, and do it from a place of like love. Not like I need to do this and then I get X amount of dollars, but the fact that you would say yes to me means we're meant to do something even more, and then also be in the discovery of that. Like when people invest with me, I'm like, okay, awesome. You've invested money with me, but also what is my duty as a brother to you now? How can I connect with you on a soul level, and using this first transaction of money to discover what else? What's the story of us? How can I reflect back to you your light and your amazingness? How can I bring more light into your life? Like just think about it from a place of service, So that's just strategy, tactics, things that will help on in the money game, at least that I found that works for me.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And like your willingness to share that, can open up possibilities right now. Like you and Michelle probably have never met, but because of like being here and willing to share vulnerably, something can possibly open, so hopefully you guys connect also. Nothing happens by accident. Cool. Fraser, you want to share?
Yeah, so I was on a really awesome call with Adam and Claudia last night and a bunch of other people. It was amazing. And I had just sent out a quote for a job, and work has been super slow. One of my buddies is actually closing his doors. It's been slow for a lot of plumbers out here. Don't know what's going on with the market. It just seems to be happening. The reaction that I got from the person about the price stirred up a reaction in myself. It was almost like, why do I even do this? What's these, like right away. And then I remembered what they said is like, I'm not my emotions, I'm the observer of my emotions. And I started to breathe and settle myself down. I get that, that scared, angry, like all those emotions that came up when it comes to fear, especially it's been the weirdest year for me because I've been going gangbusters for the last 3 years. I've had 7 days a week, 12 hours a day for the last 3 years, pretty much. And now it's really slow, and I wasn't prepared for that. And I had to say, okay, well, what's the opportunity if I don't get this job? Well, okay, maybe I'm closer to looking at something differently. So I started looking at jobs and things like that, and like, and up north in Canada, and my whole body was like, I do not want to do that. It's so cold up there, and its winters are terrible, and the work conditions are terrible. And I'm like, well, what are you willing to do? And I said, if whatever I need to do, I guess, is what I gotta do. But then I started to think, this opportunity for me to change and to look at something different, which me and Adam have talked about, with there's so many different avenues to go down that I'm not afraid to change, but I'm kind of stuck with these different paths. And so the direction for me has been a challenge to find that direction, and that also brings up fear. And now that I have this tool to breathe into, I'm not my emotions, I'm the observer of my emotions, is really, really helping me to not be in fear of change, but to just, calm myself and to allow myself to see what is the opportunity here, what am I learning from this opportunity, and how can I move forward. And yeah, so that's kind of what happened for me, and I'm not really sure. All I know is that I want to be in the US, so I don't even know if I want to apply for work in Canada. I'm like, how do I start a career in the States or work towards being in real estate or something like that? There's so many options that it does become, I get stuck in the decision making part. So I have to use that prayer and have one. I'll be doing that after this, is to ask God to help me see a different way, and to look at it differently, to see and to ask for guidance.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that too, and first of all, know that there is no wrong direction you can take. There is none. Okay, any step that you take, God walks with you, right? So when you have prayed enough, and when you have seen and see the right perspective about your life enough, you know that wherever you walk, it does not matter. God will guide you in what to say, what to do, and to whom, right? That's also the other prayer, is that, I don't have to worry about what to say or what to do, because God walks with me, and I trust in that as I help others heal, I will also be healed. And so there's a lot of little amazing nuggets in the course that I use every single day to remember that I am guided, and that you are guided. Yeah.
The other thing that came up was, I have the plans to go to Florida to be at the intensive with Adam and Claudia. I was like, can I still do this? And then I have to go to Texas to help my ex, and there's all these things that I want to do, and I'm like, I'm not going to limit myself because of a fear here. I committed to going, I'm going to go. I've committed to helping my ex and her husband, I'm going to go. And I've also talked to Javier about coming out to your conference. So I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, for some of us, it's throwing the conference. For other of us is getting to the conference. And it's all the same commitment to something, and then figuring it out and trust that, you're guided. Like, what you want, God also wants for you. And for me, a lot of times I think about whenever I go into these, because for me, tons of money come in, tons of money go out. This is it's just more money, more problems too, right? So I think about a timeline in my life where I'm just kind of sitting on a rocking chair, just chilling. And I have this vision often, right? On the front porch, just reflecting back into my life. And I think about the problem that I have right now. I'm like, well, I wouldn't even be thinking about this problem, right? Because if we even look back at our lives now, we're like, what problem did I have when I was 23? I think I was worried about I don't know, how to repay my dealer or something like that. I don't know. But all those problems, no matter how hard they were, here I am, and none of those problems stress me now. So why did I stress so hard then? All that stress actually prevents us from being able to see. It actually it makes us smaller. We contract. And the things that we're meant to do, like we rob ourselves of the light and the greatness that is possible now, like to step into. So I think about, okay, yeah, I have a lot of challenges also. We have these last 2 years have been really hard in the real estate space. I am not excluded from the blood that was spilled in real estate. What's going on, right? I think I just read that this month in the United States, $5.8 billion of real estate deals are 60 days plus delinquent. And so, like, wow, that's how many people are bleeding right now. How many people are affected by this market? How many people are praying? And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Well, at least everybody's praying. So I think back, to a timeline of me just kind of rocking on a rocking chair, just sitting there. And yeah, it's from that space, I look at my life. I'm like, oh yeah, these are just things to do. Just do them. Do them and just love people as hard as you can, no matter what's going on in the market. No matter what's going on in your own life. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a great reminder for all of us. Constantly just love as fiercely and as hard as you can. That's the only game that we're playing. Everything else is part of the 3D world game. And that just comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes. Cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you everybody for sharing super vulnerably. Does anybody else feel compelled to share about anything? Okay, so we'll read our section of the day here today. Chapter 7, Section 9. I'm actually really excited to read the next section on Sunday. I think it's the last section. No, it's the second to last session. This whole chapter has just been great. It's the gifts of the kingdom. And on Sunday, we talked about like projection and extension, the distinction between those two. Because no matter what, we are going to do those, okay? The distinction is that a projection comes from a place of fear and that we limit and we contract. Extension comes from a place of creation. And in order to create, we must share, because to have is to give, is to share. In order for us to keep something, we got to share it. That's how it works. And the ego says, well, the way you get rid of something is you throw it and you give it to somebody else. Right? So both of those make sense. However, only one of them is the law. Right? The law is that as you share it, it expands. As you share it, the creation, the kingdom expands as you share it. Your pain and your traumas, when you share it, it expands. Right? You now join into a collective sharing. That's why sometimes people get very caught up in gossiping, because it's like, oh, we get to kind of share in this attack, or sharing in traumas, right? Traumas that we have, problems that we have with our body, with our health. Let's share with others more. And then so we create more of that conversation back with us. And it's the same as also success bonding. We talk about this actually in our Legends Mastermind a lot, which is success bonding. We can also share in success bonding. And success bonding is healing, because there's a part, chapter 7, section 9. Success bonding is also very healing, because it's an expansion of an expansion. Right? Because the ego will say, oh, when somebody is successful and watching somebody else be successful, and we're not as successful, then we, like, in our minds, we're kind of attacking them. Like, oh, if they just kind of fall on their face a little bit, then then it makes me feel better about myself, right? That's that ego like nonsense. And so the ego projects, and the projection is we feel a level of inadequacy or lack, or not good enough, or unworthiness, and we try to knock other people down, and we're like, here, you take it. If you take it, then I have less of it and you have more. See, that's how the 3D world exchange happens, is I give you something, you have more, and I have less, right? And it makes sense in this world. When we give anything, now I have less of and you have more. So we have this idea that every time, and we start to associate giving with sacrificing. Okay, so giving and sacrifice really aren't the same thing. Giving and receiving is actually the same thing. So like we have to shift our mind around giving and receiving, of how do we not project but extend. It's really the same thing, except one is of love and the other is of fear. See, fear comes from lack. Like if I have to give you something, that means I'm sacrificing it. The well in which I draw from within myself is getting lessened every time I pull a cup out of it and give it to give it to you. And so the annoyance and the agitation and all of that starts showing up as we continue to give/sacrifice to others. Right? Versus if in our mind we start to have a relationship with giving and having, giving and being. As I give it, I'm already receiving. As I give it, I'm already being at peace and being happy and feeling extraordinary and all of that already. So the practice of gifting is huge, because gifting itself, as you gift it, always recognize, do I have a string attached to this? Is this conditional? Because as the moment it's conditional, it becomes sacrifice. It becomes I'm giving up something that I don't actually want to give up. And then I'm doing it for noble causes and stuff like that. So the Course says, as you project, you think you're getting rid of what is like anxious inside you, what you don't want. I'm feeling the fear, so I'm going to lash out and strike over here. And as I get to be right, now I got to be right, but I got to, what I received was I'm right about something, and now we create conflict. There's a temporary, racket, I guess. There's a temporary thing that we get, temporary prize for being right, for the bond that we share through projection, through fear. And so oh man, I got rid of this. But no, what's happening is you're reinforcing it and you're making it stronger and more real. And now this is the only conversation you get to have. Right? Because as we project it, this thing grows larger inside of us. It becomes more real. When we speak it out into words, it becomes more real. All right, Brooke, thanks so much for being here, and thank you for hearing the intro.
Yeah, thanks, babe.
Yeah. And so the Course says, then what? Because you believe the ego to be real and you value it, then you're not going to go against it. So that is why a third-party intervention is so important, and it's the Holy Spirit. Spirit knows what's true and knows your distortions. But Spirit only comes from willingness, from an invitation. So as you realize, wow, I'm carrying so much stuff, and I've said all these words, and how far I've gone. Even if you have a moment of clarity right now, you're like, wow, I already spoke all of these things. There is no going back. There is no distance in which you can go that is too far, in which Spirit can't, within a moment, heal it for you. Right? You might have said attack and hurtful things to somebody, but it's also a moment, in a moment's notice, as you're willing to give it up to Spirit, and the same Spirit flows through you and flows through me. Trust that that frequency, the oneness, the one mind, is hearing. And results are happening in a realm of spirit, correction is always happening. So, the answer is to give it over. It's not actually your responsibility. You can give it over, and spirit can write it for you. You know, God says, don't try to purify something and then give it over to me. Give it to me as is, and I will take it and purify it for you. And that's another lesson back into faith for us. Everything is an opportunity to step into faith. So as we move on to chapter 7 today, chapter 7, section 9, it's the extension of the kingdom. Okay, first of all, I say this sometimes, is that the kingdom is extending every single day through all the different acts that you can't see, through the shootings in this world, through the wars, through the Hitlers, through the all the stuff, through the human trafficking. Everything is happening best case scenario. You know, I love that. It's like a huge code that I brought back from Burning Man that I really love. And so if we can, that's the faith also, is to trust that everything's happening best case scenario. And that even you are participating in the extension of the kingdom, although you may think you're not doing something. Oh man, I've been so mean and unloving and withholding love everywhere and attacking and judging everything, and I've been negative, just like spiraling down and all of that. No, you just think that's what you're doing. You don't know what's actually happening. It is part of the extension of the kingdom. So, you know, it's kind of like that like soul, the bus stop, the soul bus stop or whatever it is, where the soul, before it comes back to life, they get to decide what is the greatest lesson, what is the greatest thing you want to learn. You know, one soul says, like, I want to learn forgiveness, like, as much as I can. Like, forgiveness and love and compassion. I just want to learn that to the deepest level. And then another soul goes, you know, I also want to learn that. So when this happens, when we go into the 3D world, when I do something to you, which will give you the opportunity to practice that, please forgive me. You know, both souls knowing what it's going to do. So whatever that looks like in the 3D world, perhaps there's always a lesson and a possibility to return to love, you know, to return to forgiveness. So anybody that is harming you, or you feel like have betrayed you and just doesn't understand you, there's an opportunity for you to right that relationship with or without that person in your own mind. You know, sometimes it takes people passing and leaving this body before the forgiveness work gets done. As long as it's in your mind, you have a chance to correct, to course correct, and to learn. So today, the extension of the kingdom. And then after, it's a short section. After this section, we probably still have a little more time, and then we'll wrap it up from there. The extension of the kingdom. Only you can limit your creative power, but God wills to release it. He no more wills you to deprive yourself of your creation than he wills to deprive himself of his. Do not withhold your gifts from the sonship, or you will withhold yourself from God. Selfishness is of the ego, but self-fullness is of spirit, because that is how God created it. The Holy Spirit is in part of the mind that lies between the ego and the spirit, mediating between them, always in favor of the spirit. To the ego, this partiality, and it responds as if it were being sided against. To spirit, this is truth because it knows its fullness and cannot conceive any part from which it is excluded. Spirit knows that the awareness of all its brothers is included in its own, as it is included in God. The power of the whole sonship and of its creator is therefore spirit's own fullness, rendering its creations equally whole and equal in perfection. The ego cannot prevail against a totality that includes God, and any totality must include God. Everything he created is given all his power because it is part of him and shares his being with him. Creating is the opposite of loss, as blessing is the opposite of sacrifice. Being must be extended. That is how it retains the knowledge of itself. Spirit yearns to share its being as its creator did. Created by sharing, its will is to create. It does not wish to contain God, but wills to extend his being. The extension of God's being is spirit's only function. Its fullness cannot be contained any more than can the fullness of its creator. Fullness is extension. The ego's whole thought system blocks extension and thus blocks your only function. It therefore blocks your joy so that you perceive yourself as unfulfilled. Unless you can create, you are unfulfilled. But God does not know unfulfillment, and therefore you must create. You may not know your own creations, but this can no more interfere with their reality than your unawareness of your spirit can interfere with its being. So like you are in creation all the time, no matter what. You know, that's what the course is saying is you may not know that you're in this creation mode. You're part of the extension. And so regardless if you think and you know your own creations or not, you are part of this extension because you are part of the whole and you are part of God's mind. The kingdom is forever extending because it is in the mind of God. You do not know your joy because you do not know your own self-fullness. Exclude any part of the kingdom from yourself and you are not whole. A split mind cannot perceive its fullness and needs the miracle of its wholeness to draw upon it and heal it. This reawakens the wholeness in it and restores it to the kingdom because of acceptance of wholeness. The full appreciation of the mind's self-fullness makes selfishness impossible and extension inevitable. That is why there is perfect peace in the kingdom. Spirit is fulfilling its function, and only complete fulfillment is peace. Your creations are protected because the Holy Spirit who is in your mind knows them and can bring them into your awareness whenever you let him. They are there as part of your own being because your fulfillment includes them. The creation of every son of God are yours, since every creation belongs to everyone, being created for the sonship as a whole. You have not failed to increase the inheritance of the sons of God, and thus have not failed to secure it for yourself. Since it was the will of God to give it to you, he gave it forever. Since it was his will that you have it forever. Oh, hold on. Since it is his will that you have it forever, he gave you the means for keeping it, and you have done so. Disobeying God's will is meaningful only to the insane. In truth, it is impossible. Your self-fullness is as boundless as God's. Like his, it extends forever and in perfect peace. Its radiance is so intense that it creates in perfect joy, and only the whole can be born of its wholeness. Be confident that you have never lost your identity and the extensions which maintain it in wholeness and peace. Miracles are expressions of this confidence. They are reflections of both your proper identification with your brothers and your awareness that your identification is maintained by extension. The miracle is a lesson in total perception. By including any part of totality in the lesson, you have included the whole. So the extension of the kingdom is literally happening all the time. Okay, regardless of what you perceive is happening in your life and the lack that you may be experiencing, they are a perception that the ego is trying to paint, that the ego is showing you the lack. But all of that lack, when properly perceived, only points to wholeness, only points to the extension of the kingdom, and that it is all playing out perfectly. That the loss of your job, the loss of income, the loss of love, the loss of whatever actually flipped upside down is to show you that you never lost it. You never can lose it. It just shows that you placed your faith into something that is not God worthy. You have made God out of some things in which you think you can lose, because what God has given you cannot be lost. It can be forgotten, but it cannot be lost. And so in that, if we can find the clarity and the faith that we are whole and complete, and this is how all healing happens also, is to recognize the healed and nothing needs to be fixed version. The needing to fix something creates the sickness, creates the illness, creates the lack in our mind. The recognition that nothing needs to be fixed is how healing happens. Right? So we can look at our individual lives, we can look at macro on the earth level, on the global scale. Everything we think needs to be fixed is our own projection of lack. And in that, we create the sickness in the world. And to heal is to see it as already healed. To heal others, to heal yourself, is to recognize that there was nothing lacking in the first place. Now you can look at problems in the world today. You can look at problems in your life and see that, oh my God, this needs to be fixed. That needs to be fixed. I need to do this. I need to do that. Before you do all of that, pray on it. Ask for a different way to see it. And then you can act on it. All right. So yeah, go ahead, Cypher. You're first, and then Jill.
Hello, Alex. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good to be here with you. I was wanting to share something from my spirit, and
Please.
we're always like human beings.
It's kind of hard to hear you, brother.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So I'm taking some notes and realizing that all of us in this earth, we're in a constant process. I hear my story, I hear everybody's story, and it's like a constant process. And we're so loyal to the ego. We're so loyal to the part of receiving for ourselves alone, to the satisfaction. We're so loyal to either our ancestors, to that past that we have, and we don't realize that energy is more important than intellect. Sometimes we want to learn and know these things, but where's the energy really flowing? The energy is not flowing to where it needs to flow, and you know how we see that the intellect is more important than energy is what is driving us crazy, because intellect is, like many people say, is sometimes turning against us.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a lot of fix and flips, and I was writing. I want to write a lot because I get inspired in writing, and I love it. I want to see, Alex, if I call you on who's helping you with your book, so I can piggyback from you, brother, because I need some help.
Yeah.
And I want to do a fix and flip in my mind, because uh, I've done so many fix and flips, but my mind's still not like, I've gone through a lot, and I've came out from a lot of difficulties, and I realized that all of those things is because I was loyal to my ego and to certain things. So I wrote something that is, a meditated brain is better than a medicated brain. So when I start practicing and I stop practicing, my mind is just goes everywhere. And I know what you just said, that the extension of the kingdoms was happening, that we don't need to fix anything, and that's energy. So I wanted to share that because that was in my heart. I always try to share something when I really need to. And thank you, Alex. Thanks everybody for this place. I think it's wonderful. So let's fix and flip our consciousness. Let's leave all those traits of just wanting to feed the ego and the energy. So namaste, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you,
And
brother.
hope to
Thank you for sharing.
I want to see if I can come to your event on October. I really miss you.
Yeah, please do.
Be part of this
it's
community. I'm always like in the sidelines because that's what I was always taught to be. But now I want to be able to play. I want to be able to. I used to play soccer in Colombia for Nacional. It was like a team, and I was only 13. And the coach always said, Cypher, like when you pass you the ball to make a goal, why do you always pass it to somebody else? And it's because my heritage, when I was born, everybody was hiding me because there was wars in Colombia and there was like all these things. So my mom and my dad were hiding me. So I didn't realize this until I'm almost finished with my hypnotherapist course. I'm going to be a hypnotherapist in about 3 months. And I've been doing a lot of hypnotherapy, and I realized that we have all these traits that we don't know that we don't know. And that really hurts me. So
Yeah.
I don't want to be in silence. I want to be playing with you, brother. So
good. Yeah, I'm welcoming that, please. So that would be great. Yeah, we've been working on the schedule for the conference in October and all the things that we're doing. It is so epic, and the speakers that I have on there, some people here know them, and yeah, it's just all.
Goosebumps just listening to you.
Huh?
Love. I get the goosebumps just by listening to you on that.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's I am bringing the trainings, like the personal NLP development, personal development trainings into this real estate space, and we're going to do it with a lot of fun and excitement and entertainment as well. So you talk about hypnosis, there's going to be a really fun hypnosis show on one of the nights as well, so it's going to be really cool, and I'm really excited for it.
I'll let you know what I'm working at this new title company here in Miami, only for investors. We're doing a bunch of flips, and I'm trying to get into multifamily, so I'm gonna piggyback on you on that. I have some things that I need to pass through you, and we'll talk about that and we'll expand later on. But
Okay.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, sounds good. Love it. Thank you. Jill, hey. You're muted though. Here, I'll hit the ask to unmute.
Sorry about that. Hi.
Hi.
Good morning. Good to see everybody. I think it's really appropriate, the thing about fixing in this moment politically. I got home last night from Canada, and when I was in Vancouver at the airport, I was on a call with an architect that I worked with in Russia. And he's a young man like yourself, and he's totally awake. He's amazing. I'd love to introduce you all to him, have him come to this call sometime soon. But he was making, the call was about moving to Russia. It was kind of hilarious that I was on a call listening to somebody actually trying to convince me to move to Russia, telling me that it was the safest place on earth, the most beautiful place, that there would be absolutely no problem, that everything runs perfectly, that we could buy land and make a community for like incredibly cheap. And and he incorporates a lot of my husband's work into his own work. It's really interesting work that he does, very spiritual architecture. So I thought that was like, it was such a mind flip for me that I was listening to him and considering everything that he was saying, that I couldn't believe. That, because when I was growing up, Russia was kind of like this, like, horrible dark place that was, you know, before the curtain fell, and was like so backwards, and the people were, you know, had nothing, and it just was a whole different paradigm. And so for me to be listening to Alosha on the call and to be thinking, oh my God, I could actually go over and I was asking him, like, I won't get killed going over there because I've spoken, you know, I've been, you know, and he's like, you know, I won't get put in prison because I'm an American, you know, and it was pretty funny. So I think that what that said to me is that all of my beliefs are just ridiculous. Like even on like some core level that I don't even know what they are. I don't even know what my beliefs are anymore because I was so willing to consider this and so willing to just go, okay, all right. And there were people on the call like myself. There were mostly Americans on the call. So that was one thing that, like, you don't need to fix anything. I don't know how that fits in there, but I do feel this sort of uneasiness in America right now. And I feel it's pervasive in having just come back from Canada and speaking a lot with Canadians. They all feel it. You know, they all feel that something really, you know, dramatic, like they're watching the election, let's say, more closely than maybe I was. And so about fixing something, like I say, in the climate right now, there's a I myself have a feeling of uneasiness. And I don't know if that's my own internal uneasiness or something that's outside of myself that enters in. And so anyway, I just was, you know, I thought it was interesting that you don't need to fix anything. And I feel like when you are in alignment with God and completely, when none of this stuff affects you on the outside, that's true. You don't need to fix anything. But I think what motivates me to get up in the morning is to do my project. And my project is about fixing stuff, you know, what's broken. And so that's kind of also like a mind twist as well. So I guess my mind is being really twisted. Like I said to Alosha, I really got to just like sit down and absorb everything that you taught me on this call. Because when I say enthusiastically pushing this, it was beyond enthusiastic. And he was really like, we can buy this property here for, and then he was showing pictures and with a little dacha on it, with a little house on it, and you know, and we can turn it into this paradise, and all you have is a $3,000 investment, like incredibly $100,000. I don't know. It was very so it was kind of funny that there were Americans on that call listening to this, and we were all like asking a lot of questions, but. Anyway, so thank you for being here, and great lesson, and great always hearing what you have to say.
Oh yeah, thank you so much, Jill. Yeah, whenever we feel like we have to fix something, like we see a world that is broken, and then we also start to go down this rabbit hole of like fear, because right, the Course says our only problem is that we see ourselves as separate from love, or we see ourselves as separate from God, or we see ourselves as separate from others. During times of election, right, there seems to be this huge division, right? That's what happens, because the division is shown very clearly between two different parties, between two supporting systems, and people like really stand up for that, and then they'll attack each other for their beliefs, like you are your belief, right? But that's not true. You're not your belief. You're still love. You're still love. You're still the child of God, regardless of what you believe. But we start to associate that. So then as more people participate in that, we can feel the energy even more. Those of us that aren't even like choosing sides or anything like that, right? Like, it doesn't really matter. This is the game that we're playing in this world. We created this division in our own mind, and we feel like we have to ally ourselves to one of those two sides, and then we are kind of withholding from the other side, right? Like we're judging them directly. So there's a big division that's also happening. So of course the uneasiness happens every time there's an election. Like, this kind of rises. Nobody all of a sudden feels, oh my God, our country feels so united right now as we're divided on the different presidential candidates, right? Like, that's not what we're thinking. We're thinking about who gets to win, which side will win. There's a clear winner and a loser. But how do we go beyond that? This is why we study the courses. Yes, this game is playing out and we are playing in the game, but how do we be beyond that? You know, how do we live more in the spirit of it and recognize that the game is the game, and it doesn't matter. You can be like, you can totally say, hey, I would love to see Trump win. I would love to see Kamala win. Like, it doesn't matter. That's part of the game that's playing out. I can still love deeply others, regardless of their choice of presidential candidate, right? Regardless of their belief either. Like, let me see the light and the God in you, because we still are united in love. We still are united, and then regardless of our preferences, what we truly want is still all the same. You know, that's why the Course says the teacher of God has made one. The only difference between being that and not is the teacher of God has made a decision that he or she and her interests are not separate from all of our brothers and sisters. You know, so from that place we start to see, and we heal our mind, and we give ourselves a chance for that. So anyways, yeah, that's a really great share. Thank you, Jill. You know, and we challenge our minds. Like, we think we know, right? Some of the things when we believe we know, and when we speak it out, it sounds so ridiculous. Like, you mean I can go to Russia and not be killed? Like, from one aspect, it's like, that's a legitimate question because of my perception that I've created, my worldview, like seeing the world from this sliver rather than whole. And we ask that question. For somebody else, it's like, wow, that's the most like kind of ignorant question, right? It's like, we can see it. We can see that both sides can be right because of their personal experience and perception. So perception is not the truth. And when we can separate perception and truth, like when we speak, we recognize, wow, what I'm saying is a perception of mine, and it isn't the truth. Then I can also become that witnesser that Fraser was talking about earlier, right? I'm just witnessing myself making these choices. I'm witnessing myself limiting my light. And there's nothing, yeah.
I don't know how many people on this call would feel comfortable going to Russia today, given the current political situation. And that's what I'm talking about. I don't necessarily mean being killed necessarily, but you know, you hear things like people getting put in prison and things like that. And so it for me, like I say, I said I've got to recalibrate my brain to even think about this, because what we're being fed is a different story, is a completely different story. And I was like, I felt like, wow, I'm open to this. I am actually open to learning more about this. And like I say, like recalibrating to understand that what we receive in terms of information is so small and so, like you say, it's a sliver. What we get in terms of what we know is really just a sliver of what really the truth is, which is
Yeah.
much broader, much bigger mirror or reflection, much bigger. But Marion, has been on the world stage, rightfully so. And I think that one of the things that she's been doing, knowing for the last 2 election cycles, is just bringing A Course in Miracles to the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's what her candidacy has. She's known that she's not going to be elected, but she's brought the whole idea of love over fear into the conversation. And on occasion, I've heard other candidates say mouth her words.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's sort of been in there being a voice of reason.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, for sure. Like, all of us see the world from one angle, and the goal is for us to see from God's view, right? And that's just like to witness, like everything I see, can I see the love in it? That's how we can actually try to see the truth, is can I see the love within this information that I'm receiving? Right? Because a lot of people will want to share from a place of fear and separation and all that because it draws more attention, right? The ego calls for its allies. And so we can be drawn into that, or we can say, oh, wait, let me look beyond that. So when there's always 2 different ways to look at something, and that's it. There's just 2. It's only 2, right? It's not like 8 billion people looking at this 8 billion different ways. There's 8 billion different forms. However, there's only 2 things ever happening. You're either seeing it from a place of trust, acceptance, compassion, or you're seeing it from a place of fear, division, and it's not good, and all of that. So go ahead, Fraser. Last one, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Well, I just found that interesting that Russia conversation came up because I've found out that there's some Canadians that are moving to Russia because of the circumstances here versus the circumstances there, and that it's not just like 1 or 2. There's quite a few people moving there. Why? I don't know exactly, but find it interesting that that's what's happening. And yes, we have a different perception of Russia because of what we're fed versus what is actual, or what is truth to each and individual person, is because it's perception, right?
Yeah, totally. Cool. So anyways, we'll be back on Sunday with the second to last section of the chapter, which is the confusion of pain and joy. Very interesting. We confuse pain and joy. Michelle, go ahead. Hello. Oh, you just wanted to hop on and show your face and say hi? Okay. Well, we are almost done with chapter 7, and chapter 8 is another beautiful chapter of the journey back. And the beginning of that is, knowledge is not the motivation for learning this course. Peace is. Can't wait for the beginning and for that chapter. Chapter 8 is an amazing chapter. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in. And if you made it this far, thank you. Much blessings, and talk soon. Bye, everybody.